Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Think Tank Reports session. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for folks to join us, and then we'll get started. And my name is Anna Marie Cruz. I'm the Western Regional Manager for ICIC. I'm joining you today from Long Beach, California. So delighted to have you all join us for the final day of the conference. We've been hearing a lot of wonderful things, and we're very excited about the connections that you're making with each other. So the purpose of this think tank report out is to give you an opportunity to learn about the sessions that took place on day one. I realize it seems like that was many, many moons ago. Just like in maybe high school or college days when we missed class, we had those wonderful friends who took notes for us. And that's sort of what we're doing here is we're leaning on our colleagues to share their notes from these sessions so that no one feels like they missed out on the valuable information that we've received through these think tank sessions. So as you may recall, we had 7 sessions from day one. Today we'll be doing reporting for 6 of those sessions, and you'll have your colleagues, you'll get to know some of your colleagues from those sessions who will share some of the key highlights and key lessons from each one. And if we have some time at the end, we will open it up to the group to perhaps share your own lessons that you took from the sessions or any questions that you might have. So without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to our first think tank reporter, who is Rhonda Kane. Rhonda, let's make sure that your audio is working.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Perfect, perfect. All right, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ICI family. I'm Rhonda Kane. I'm the Director of Government Solutions for International Business Express, IBEX. IBEX is an advanced information technology firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. Today, I'm going to talk to you about procurement and all of the discussion that I had with our cohorts. The first thing we talked about was identifying challenges. Some of the things they asked about what was the specific challenges has your business faced with respect to this session topic? Well, what I would say that IBEX has faced difficulty in reaching our clients through their traditional means, face-to-face. That's how we normally would actually market to our customers. And so that's out of the way with the COVID. So the other things that we also had challenges with were coming up with sales projections and forecasts for the upcoming year 2021 because we're in such a different environment. So we've really focused right now on our existing clientele to drive revenue through our company, just going back and focusing on our core services. Other questions were, are there challenges are the challenges that we face, are they industry specific or applicable to all small businesses? I would say both. IBEX challenges are somewhat industry specific because our focus in terms of our marketing is within the federal government space. In the contracting arena, but some of the challenges that many small businesses encountered are the same challenges, such as meeting customers and having the access to them. And so I think that some of those challenges are the same. What are some of the larger structure challenges that magnify the impact of the pandemic on small businesses? I think that the economic slowdown directly affected the financial health of many small businesses, such as profitability, our credit scores, and really the health and well-being of our employees. So those are some of the things that I felt were really affecting businesses. What are some of the shortfalls of the different resources and or technical assistance programs meant to support businesses at this time? I would say I feel that some of the shortfalls that we have encountered included extensive waiting for approval on grants and loans, sometimes taking 2 to 3 months to get approvals. Other technical assistance programs such as PTAP and other programs that are meant to help small businesses, I felt that they were overwhelmed with the amount of small businesses needing assistance. So we've also identified solutions. How have you attempted to resolve those challenges, and what have you seen other businesses do? What solutions and or resources have been most successful? IBEX focused on our core customers, reassuring them that we are available during the pandemic. And we also received a PPP loan and grants. Those definitely helped our business because without it, I'm not sure if we would still be around because of the shortfall of us not being able to market to many of our new clients. Other cohorts have pivoted their businesses to directly benefit from COVID by selling COVID products. For example, one of the restaurant owners turned his business into a manufacturing plant for hand sanitizer. And another cohort also, she designed and sold the floor signs that say, stay 6 feet back. So she sold those to many markets and other businesses. And another cohort, also a realtor, she pivoted to become a consultant, a real estate consultant to landlords who were looking for help to navigate the eviction process. So that was part of some of the solutions. Another question is, what are the resources are available to support businesses through this session topic? The SBA is a great resource for small businesses. PTAP, which is in all of the states, those are a local resource to help you with marketing or just to help you in general with business topics that you may need support with. Another resource, of course, is ICI. We also utilize state and local government. They all have small business offices and resource centers open to small businesses. What can business owners do to best prepare themselves for these challenges? Protect your cash flow, focus on your core competencies, and make the most of current customers and collaborations with other small business partners on opportunities or share resources. What needs to be done on a local, state, and federal level to best support businesses during this time? From the federal level, I feel that if they pass a new stimulus bill that will help with taxes as well as provide additional PPP loans and other forms of funding for small business would be very helpful. State and local provide programs that will help provide grants and other forms of funding. Now, identifying outstanding issues and questions, how do you foresee these challenges presenting themselves and evolving over the next 6 to 12 months? I think businesses will have to make significant changes to survive or thrive over the next 6 to 12 months by managing their cash flow, perhaps hiring 1099s opposed to employees, and also pivoting to more profitable products or solutions. How do you anticipate the pandemic will affect your business and or industry in the long term? In the long term, I'm not sure if we're going to recapture some of the revenue that we lost to recoup because many of the contracts that we were going after had been canceled. But I also have that on the positive side that with COVID environment, we streamlined our business model, and also our employees also work telework 100%. And this has been seamless to our customers. So I think there's some positive and negatives with it. So that's kind of my recap on that. What concerns regarding our business and its trajectory? The main concern is reaching potential new customers. That's been a major challenge. And putting together our forecast for new business is still a challenge in this environment. I think a way forward for our business is to continue providing our core services and look for smaller contracts that are easier to win.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. That's a very comprehensive list of ideas and suggestions, and I'm sure there's plenty more where that came from and lots to talk about. So we'll move on to the next group, which is responding to COVID-19. Before we do that, I just want to give a quick reminder that we do have webinars on procurement related topics, including certification. So make sure to look at the archive library for that. So next we have presenters from the next group, Mona Gaddis and Brittany White. Mona is with Duran Central Pharmacy and Brittany is with White Tea Company.
So, hi everyone. I can start. My name is Mona Gaddis, and I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we had the task of responding to COVID. And some of the common challenges that we identified were learning how to pivot a new business model while putting COVID protocols in place, obtaining funding and resources, and identifying a new client archetype. The solutions and resources that we identified it was very important to keep staff safe physically and mentally. After all, your staff is your team and you need that support through this pandemic. Moving events, workshops, goods, services online was also important. That online resources were definitely important during this time, and applying to as many grants as possible, networking, promoting yourself in the virtual space, and using advocacy to help get more monies. The other solutions were looking towards your local community, maybe rather than tourists. A lot of people are in tourists spots, and they realized, wow, I need to look at my own local community here. I think there was a gentleman that had a sailing business, taking people out on excursions, and tourists weren't coming. So he pivoted and he started going after his local community, hoping that they would come and try these great activities. So just developing or identifying alternate ways to reach customers, maybe switching from B2B to B2C. You might have to go to your consumer now instead of your business. The consumer's at the business, for instance. And the issues that we identified, the outstanding questions were, managing stress and customer expectations, being resourceful, managing the financial impact of less customer spend, trying to use this this time to create new opportunities, maybe closing a little bit early, or cutting, just cutting off some of the fat in the business, basically. And then the biggest one was identifying long-term effects of the pandemic and changes to behavior. The need for a hybrid model, that yes, we still have to work online. Online's here to stay. Perhaps we all need to embrace it. And, other things like outdoor spaces could be very critical for events, restaurants, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and let Brittany speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Mona. You actually covered all the topics, so I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. And thanks, Mona, for those ideas as well. Next, we have our speakers from the Cash Flow Management Group, Callie Carpenter from Pacific Northwest Cookie Company, and Greg Palmer from GPI Financial Services.
Hi, so I'll go first. And so we're with the Cash Flow Management Think Group, and the real topic, like the focus that we had with the group, was what actions could we take immediately, like the same day, to make an impact on our cash flow. So I'll go over a couple of the questions we had. So under eliminating waste, so I'm asking your accountant or bookkeeper where and how money is being most wasted. How to increase revenue, potentially have a sale for current or potential customers right now. Decrease cost of goods or services sold. So go through your inventory to get actual visibility of what is needed to purchase and what isn't. Contact suppliers and ask for terms. So if you pay within 10 days, maybe get 2% off of your order. Decrease expenses. So look at your hours of operation and condense. Decrease accounts receivable. I know it's uncomfortable, but get on the phone and call some of those people and just ask, for the payment. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Callie. Hi, this is Greg Palmer of GPI Financial Services. We are insurance and risk managers, and we can operate in all 50 states. But to continue on, I've got 6 additional points when it comes to cash flow management. And the real idea is our group was really focused on those actions that could take immediate action on our cash flow. Because again, remember, cash is king. The next thing we talked about was how can you decrease your inventory? And one of the things that we came up with was to have a fire sale and maybe look for those items that don't move as quickly and maybe discount those to really move them out the door. And make sure that your inventory, make sure you have a good tracking system for your inventory so that you can keep track of exactly what's in the shop. And the other thing to do is to make sure that you don't over purchase particular items. So you really want to track how fast those items are moving out of your shop to determine, the actual amount of that particular purchase that you may want to have in the office. The next thing was how to slow down your payables. I think there, what you might want to do is ask for terms, 90 days as an example, maybe 120 days, but see how far you can extend those particular terms. And then once you establish those terms, pay on the actual pay date. Pay on that actual pay date. A lot of firms now, you can actually go online and make your payment. So make that payment on the exact date as a way to slow down your payables. Excuse me. Another item was how do you speed up your sales cycle? One of the items that we came up with was to get a firm commitment from your clients as to when, where, and how fast they want to close these deals. Maybe have for your new clients, even have a special discount for your new clients. And then also the real key behind business, of course, is make sure that you follow up. Follow up is so key. The next item was how to speed up the buy cycle. We came up with a few ideas here, and one was to review your standard operational procedures, to look in there and see, are there any inefficiencies, to make sure that you can move with the speed of light. So you want to make sure that you are using all of the technology that is available to you to ensure the speedy success and the speedy buying cycle of your customers. So make sure you look at your standard operating procedures and look for those inefficiencies. And how do you speed up the delivery cycle? What you want to do here is you want to make sure that your expectations are clear and your employees can deliver on your promises. One of the things that I always like to say to clients is understate and over deliver. And our final point is how to speed up the collection cycle. You want to have some clear terms, maybe have some late payment penalties, and make sure that you have your clients really understand the collection process. And again, the key behind collections is also good follow-up. And here's to your success.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for the cheers and the toast. And I know all of you are feeling very energized from your peers. And I just want to emphasize that this is your community. So please do reach out to each other. I've already seen some of the LinkedIn profiles that people have shared, your emails, etc. Make sure that you do reach out to your colleagues and peers. And Greg, you mentioned a lot of the things related to what we can control, taking action on items that we can control, but also making sure that you are communicating with vendors, with different partners that you work with. So thank you so much for those tips. Now, this next topic is one that has been very popular throughout the year, which is hiring and retaining employees. I'd like to turn it over to Mike Lopez of Reaction Analytics, Inc. And Mike, I also want to congratulate you on your new factory, which we got a sneak peek of a little bit earlier. So Mike, take it away.
Sure, thank you very much, Anna Marie. Hi, folks. Yeah, I've got a few minutes to talk to you about this topic, hiring and retaining employees. It's a topic that's important to me because, as Anna Marie mentioned, I'm just putting together a new factory and I'm looking to fill it with employees. So hopefully you'll be in the same position soon yourself. What I'd like to do, though, is to share some stories that came out of our cohort, folks that are looking at this from different angles. And then Anna Marie helped me to crystallize kind of 4 key points that we'll touch on. And then I want to spend a few minutes talking about a keynote speaker from our second day event that had a big impact on me in thinking about this topic. So let's talk about some stories. The first person who spoke with us, Araba, owned a company called Bolton Financial. They do employee benefit packages. So you can imagine that during this time, she was running a successful office, looking at hiring friends, family, bringing more people into the office. Then the pandemic hits, and everyone has to go remote. And the key message that I got out of this was that she still wanted to hold on to those employees during this difficult time because she believed that every employee generated revenue, that 20% of their key time, of their time at work, should be spent on feeding the other percent, 80% of their time doing things in the office. So I thought it was, I think, really insightful to start off with this idea that employees aren't just costs, but they're a chance for us to make our company more successful. The key is commitment, trying to find people. She struggled with how to find people who would make that commitment to her business. We then spoke with Tamika, who ran a consulting business. They did diversity, team building training. You'd think that business would fall to pieces. How can you do in-person consulting like that? Turns out the business has expanded from a dozen 1099s now to 20 1099s. Companies are screaming for arbiters, people that can help them negotiate with employees that just aren't happy. But this has been a leap that's just been too fast for her over the last 8 months. The way that she's found people, 1099s, to work for her has been through relationships, professionals that would know one another and could reference people to her. Now she's having to reach beyond that. And then managing 20 people at 1099s is more than she can do herself. So she's finding her first hire or first full-time employee is someone that can just help her handle administration. So it's her mantra, Tamika's mantra out of all this is, what can only I do? You know, and everything else I have to let go of. How can I trust somebody, bring somebody in to do that for me? That's the only way I can grow. Nicole talked to us. She runs a consulting business called Foster and Create. They do branding and communications. They sell to the pharma industry in Boston, which got shut down in March because of some local circumstances there. She's scared out of her mind. She knows the business is coming back. That's what's helping us all as the pharma industry, bringing vaccines. So she knows the business is there. She uses a lot of 1099s, but now that they're all remote, she really struggles with whether she can trust them to get the work done. And now she wants their full-time attention. She wants to turn them into full-time employees. But how does she do that when she runs a consulting business that's project to project? You know, I face that same problem myself. And I realized just this year, my longest term 1099's been 5 years. I should have hired him years ago. You know, you got it. That's part of that believing in yourself. And that's what we're supposed to do. She did get us into talking about the interviewing process. For her, the issue was appropriate questions. She's in a big urban area, quite a diverse of folks that she can draw from to interview. How do you put yourself in a position of asking the tough questions? Remember that commitment word we heard before in the stories, but without, you know, upsetting people or hurting people. So she introduced this idea of developing a process map. If you're going to hire somebody, it starts with, you know, putting an ad out, you know, a job description, who's going to end up doing the interviewing, what are the questions you ask, you know, and taking the time up front to put that map together for your business. Christine talked to us from Higher Image. Her real message was with the remote workforce, which she's had great success with. She feels she's had that success because she's used a nationwide payroll service. So I won't mention a company, ADP, but there are other services like that. And what those folks know are those local requirements. They take that responsibility on as you hire those remote workers. Finally, Vanessa, last set of stories. She works with an electrical contractor in Washington, D.C. They run an apprenticeship program where they bring folks in from the local community and teach them how to become electricians. So they feed themselves and their families the rest of their lives. They saw their business go to nothing in March. They had to do a huge pivot. The city of Washington, D.C. was generous to them, but also they were qualified through PPP. So we heard before that those stimulus programs really do help keep people alive. They've been able to keep their apprenticeship program open. They were able to rehire the 2 permanent employees they had to let go of in March. They've been able to keep everybody busy and meet payroll and meet vendor payments. Boy, that's the best you can say right now, folks. If you can do that, you're a winner. So those 4 points that Anna Marie picked out of all those stories, I loved it. All right. 1, growth means we need to hire. This is an issue we all have to confront. 2, how to give responsibility to new hires. That's a really important question that you need to answer. So that's 2. 3, fear of hiring, uncertainty in our business. It's a reality. We have to deal with it, but we have the only way, again, point number 1, how do we grow? We have to hire people, right? So that point number 3, it's real, but we have to overcome it. Finally, point 4, hiring is a process. Take the time, write it out for your business, look for examples on Google from your mentors, take the time to do it up front. Now the homework. Natalie Lomedico, she was terrific. This is the woman who spoke from Giro Glass, I believe out of the Bay Area, Los Angeles. So they take folks from that local community and they teach them how to be artists, right? They teach them how to be leaders. What did I hear from Natalie's mouth? She wants her employees to aspire in the business. All of them can become owners through the ESOP program, but through the hiring process, the vetting process, they want to create a culture that looks at growth, looks at integrity, looks at respect, looks at ownership, looks at excellence, and looks at unity. So if you can describe, like my new factory here, if I can take like 5 words and say, this is it, I should put them up on the wall now. These are wonderful words from a company that's very successful and drawing for local community. never missed payroll, paid all their vendors, being financially responsible through difficult times. That was something she really made a point of, that that's our responsibility as business owners to create that stable environment to bring people into, to let them become leaders, right? All of the employees are trained in the business model of how the business runs so that each of them understands how they are committed to profit, which goes back to that first story that 20% of every hire's responsibility is to generate revenue. So how do they know how to do that? Well, they have to know how your business runs. So share that information. So how am I doing on time? Great. So what do we always do? We go back to our 4 points, right? Our 4 points are: growth means we have to hire, right? We have to find people to do things that we don't need to do ourselves. 2, we have to figure out how to give responsibility to new hires, right? 3, fear of hiring. Uncertainty in business is a reality. Accept it, do your best, but the only way to grow is by hiring. 4th, hiring is a process. Sit down, define it for your business, research it, implement it. That's what we do as business owners. Good luck out there.
Mike, thank you so much, not only for synthesizing all of these great points from your group, also providing homework. So again, if you did not get a chance to see that address from Natalie, you're able to go back to those recordings. Just a lot of really great points there around culture, around leadership development, and utilizing your resources for growth, but also ensuring that people are at the center of that growth plan. So thank you very much, Mike, for that. The next group we have is going to answer some questions around what next. You know, once you've grown, what's next for the business? What is the roadmap? What is your succession plan? And what is your exit strategy? So for that, we have Bernadette Harris from By the Book Accounting and Michaela Racine from Champion Dentistry.
So good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Bernadette, and my company, By the Book Accounting, is a tax and forensic accounting firm here in Atlanta. I attended the succession planning exit strategy session, which was a really great session. One of the part of the conversation was how we have to almost enter our business with the exit strategy in mind. You know, so even if you're 1-2 years into the business, you want to go into that business thinking about what is the succession plan, meaning what happens when I stop doing this business, or how will I get out of this business? Am I building this business to sell it? Am I building this business to pass it on to the next generation? So that's the reason why I took the class. So some of the things that I got from the class, we talked about some of the challenges that we were having around this topic in general. And many of the people who were in my session, they were part of a family-owned business. So our keynote from today talked about how she was a part of a multi-generational business. And some of the challenges that the people were saying they had was that they had family members who didn't want to let go. And so you have family members who may have started the company. There were some people in the company, and I'm not as great as Mike. He wrote down names and everything, so that was pretty awesome. But there were people in their companies that may have been they're 80 or 90 years old, and they don't want to let go of the company. And so how do you address those types of challenges when you are dealing with a company that, you know, they started it and they may be feeling emotional around, are you trying to kick them out? Are you trying to take their livelihood? And so those were some of the things. Another challenge that we talked about was retaining and hiring good employees, because that is also a very important part of succession planning, is making sure that you bring on people in your organization who are going to be able to help your organization not only grow, but to continue to be around when you're not. And so what are some of the training conversations? How are you preparing your employees for that next level. So these are some of the things you want to think about. And then we talked about how you need to create that plan, right? So these were the challenges. And then I'm going to share a few solutions, and then I'll move out of the way and let my partner share whatever I missed. So some of the solutions that we discussed in that session is, at some point, you have to have the tough conversations. Sometimes it's hard, you know, when you have a family member who does not want to let go, and you have to have those tough conversations. Because if you don't have the conversations, you could kill the business by not having those conversations. And one of the suggestions from the participants as well as the facilitator was, bring in a consultant and have the consultant present the plan to the family. And so now the consultant is this neutral outside party, and it doesn't make the family feel like they're having to take sides. And then the last solution was, and once you've done those things, then create a plan to figure out what that succession plan actually looks like for your business. So thank you for this opportunity to report out on our session, and I'll turn it over to our partner.
Nice job, Bernadette. My job is to just fill in. You did a great job. Just gonna read a couple quotes here. I think everybody understands the definition of succession plan, and it's really any business owner with a successful, thriving business should consider creating a succession plan. It's often thought about in the context of retirement or sale of a business, but a succession plan is also a critical tool in the event of untimely death or illness. A properly constructed succession plan acts like a will for your business, ensuring the best interests of the business are carried out. Our group was diverse. Like Bernadette said, we actually had someone in our group that was in a multi-generational family-owned business where there was a lot of tension as a result of the lack of alignment on the direction of the business and who is best to lead. The lack of open discussion actually destroyed relationships, and they note that family is more important than business. We also had a business owner who had sold one business before and was working on a current deal to sell her existing business. And she had experience working with different types of brokers. Succession planning can mean different things to different business owners. It depends on where you are today and where you want to go with your business. As I mentioned earlier, it applies to all types of businesses. The other thing is it's an ongoing process. You should constantly review it and assess it. Years ago, when I worked in corporate America, I worked on succession plans for senior executives. And this was a board requirement. Board of advisors once a quarter would meet, and they would want to review the succession plan at the highest levels of the organization for the key leaders and key positions. COVID made clear that succession planning is critical and made many people think more about the need for an exit strategy. She mentioned the fact that you need to have a plan. So if you do have a written succession plan, we actually went through a poll. It was an interesting exercise. What does your plan include? When was the last time it was updated? If you want to exit your business 3 to 5 years from now, you should start planning right away. Bernadette mentioned the fact and the value of the key business advisors, such as a broker and a CPA, and also a consultant. There are also resources out there, whether it's SCORE. As ICIC alumni, we have access to the PCV, Pacific Community Ventures, and they provide mentoring in this space in particular. And as I also mentioned to you, I did a quick search of some other resources, and SCORE has all sorts of templates for free that you can use. In closing, the best plan is to have a plan. Get alignment with business owners on succession planning and your exit strategy, and realize that your actions don't just impact you, but your family, your staff, your customers, and your community. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michaela and Bernadette. And I also would like to stress the importance of a succession plan, a business plan. It goes by so many different names, but consider it a living, breathing thing in the business. As a former lender, this was the way that I would understand the roadmap for any business that I would consider for financing. So it definitely has many, many uses. And if you are working in multi-generational family businesses, obviously it's important to communicate with the rest of your family what you'd like to do to the business in case you're tapping someone for that next role. But just such an interesting and valuable topic. Thank you so much. So the next think tank group is the telling your story with marketing. And as we know, this has definitely played a major role in also translating that story to different avenues, particularly online. So I'd like to introduce our reporters, Laura Gallagher from Creative Company and Gwen Navarrete-Klaparich from Klaparich International Training Associates, LLC.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Gwen Navarrete-Klaparich, and I own a talent development company out here in Hawaii. When we talked about storytelling and marketing, one of the common challenges that really came to light was that one-on-one interaction came to a halt. For example, there was a salsa company that could no longer demo their product in stores, and a clothing company who couldn't do personal fittings for their target market, which were women who had breast cancer. Service companies struggled not only with the inability to do normal networking with potential clients, but also how to work together as a team and while apart. Keeping a steady schedule and maintaining a quality of service was a challenge as employees were managing more challenges at home and at work. You know, the whole blending of the personal and professional life was proven to be a challenge. And then, you know, one of the things that was common as far as challenges for everybody across all of the groups in our cohort was that the safety of employees and staff is always top of mind. But how do you balance the need for revenue with the need for safety? We also talked about how difficult it was to keep your audience engaged. So as I mentioned before, all one-on-one interaction came to a halt. In-face person connection didn't really exist anymore. So they're missing that live connection. If you're somebody who's used to selling to the public face-to-face, how do you translate your face-to-face personality and able to pitch online? How do you translate that to selling online? And how do you let customers know that you're still around? The other challenge, or the last challenge I'll go over, is that effective marketing becomes more expensive and it was more labor intensive. So those were the common challenges that all of the groups in our think tank came up with. I'll go ahead and turn things back over to Laura.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Gallagher. I'm president of the Creative Company, and thank you, Gwen, for setting me up with the common challenges. So now we're going to talk about solutions, the common solutions and some resources that people were able to find. So one of the first things that people pivoted to, or small business owners pivoted to, was utilizing Zoom more often. We've heard of even being Zoomed out, right? But this was a lifeline for us. So Zoom turned into a way to do trainings, a way to have meetings, a way to communicate with staff on a daily basis, a way to communicate with customers. You know, if the pandemic had happened at a different time in our lives, we wouldn't have had this tool at the level that we have it now. And so everyone was Zooming, and that was a really good solution for many of us. And we also had to, there was a learning curve with that, right? At Creative Company, for example, we started doing crisis communications seminars for free. So we started just open sourcing it, which was another solution that our group came up with. But we hadn't done that before. So all of a sudden you're figuring out all these things that you hadn't done before. And that was pretty common, but it's a great solution. And you're learning that you can make all kinds of things happen in that space that you wouldn't have done before because you didn't have to. So that was a cool solution. Leveraging relationships is another way that people are getting through the pandemic. They're making sure that they're connecting with their associations, their economic development agencies, organizations like SCORE. Certainly the Initiative for Competitive Intercity is a great resource for all of us. And really working those, I actually am a 2016 Milwaukee, Wisconsin cohort alum of this program. And then I went on to the Babson 10K SB program.
Yeah.
But you're so busy running your business that you don't have time to really get to know some of those connections or to even look at the app or download the app. And so now we actually have the time to do that and to start to leverage those relationships and those common connections. So it's a gift in an unusual way. So make sure that you're leveraging relationships if you're not already. Another thing that our group talked about was just how quickly they had to pivot and go online. And when I say our group, I mean like the group as a whole, but things like Shopify went from, oh yeah, we want to do that, to we need to make that work, and we need to make it work really well from a customer user standpoint. And also, you know, training online, all those kinds of things, and advertising and marketing online. You know, maybe you didn't have to do it before because you could do more conferences and sponsorships and things like that. All of a sudden, you need to stay in front of them. And it was a very noisy marketplace between the pandemic, racial justice issues, and the election. So to get a message out there, and we're going to talk about this at the end, you need to have a distinctive brand message, which was another solution, is that people dove into their brands a little deeper, including Gwen, and worked on it to make it more clear. You can't be confusing in a marketplace like this. You have to have your brand message has to be on point. And I think, let's see, and then communication. Communication is always challenging. It's even more challenging now. So you have to do it more often than before. Sometimes some businesses have said it's 10x of what they were doing before the pandemic, because there's so many new things that are happening, and they just need to keep that story moving in a different way than what they had before. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Gwen for this last question, which we're actually going to kind of answer together. And it's really about storytelling and marketing solutions. And maybe I'll just kick it off with the distinctive brand messaging aspect. Like, really important to have your brand on point, on message. There's a crazy amount of uncertainty out there in terms of budgeting. And so there's this tendency to hold back. Don't. Studies have shown that advertisers during previous recessions and things like that, marketers who are out there pushing a little bit harder than the rest of the pack, they'll go by leaps and bounds during this time. So don't hold back. Go for it. Your competition's maybe waiting to see what happens. You don't want to be sitting on the sidelines when this thing's over, because we will recover. And then it's just, it's really crowded out there and there's a lot of choices. So the other thing that people in our group were concerned about was the social media aspects of it. And like, where do I go? What do I do? Pick one thing. Just pick one thing and do it really well. And then move on to the next thing. And remember, it's not about you talking. It's about you listening and giving people what they need. It's all about the user experience. It's all about what's in it for them. So flipping it around. And really taking this time too, which is one of the things that Gwen did, is to really think through your customer journey map. What do you want them to do? What do you want to happen at each stage? This is a good time to pause and look at your marketing plans. Gwen, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. One of the things that we talked about earlier this morning, and also too in our group, is, okay, so you have figured out how to translate and pivot your business now online. The question is, how do you communicate to your customers that you're still around, that you haven't shuttered down? And so I think that's why when you pick at least one marketing tool, or you personally reach out to your customers, as Bernadette or Trace Construction did earlier, that's one of the things that will actually help you maintain those relationships and keep your business moving forward. And I think the other thing that we talked about was that, okay, so now everybody's pivoted. Now everybody in the world is making PPE, is making masks, is making hand sanitizer. How do you differentiate yourself from everybody who's moving in the same direction? And so I don't know if Laura wants to add anything to that, but that's basically the challenge that we all have right now. When everybody has pivoted and moved in the same direction, how do you separate yourself from the rest of the pack, so to speak?
Simple, clear messaging is actually really hard to do. So you have to stay on point, and you have to know who you want to have a relationship with. One of the things that's been really, we're living that out at Creative Company. Our brand messaging is on point. The vast majority, 85%, 90% of the clients that come to our website are the people that we want to work with. They're seeing that, like our values and our mission and our vision and how we work matches perfectly with them. So you save time if you just spend the time on the front side. doing the proper messaging. So do the hard work. And I believe they teach that in the ICIC program about messaging and branding and marketing. So, you know, if you don't pull out your old homework, if you're a previous grad and get working on it, take some time with your team and figure it out. And then the other pieces will fall into place, because it's like, you know each other. Oh no, this is exactly what I was looking for. And this is exactly what we deliver. And it's a match. Does that make sense? Good.
I think that's it for the two of
Yeah,
us, yeah.
that's it for us, Anna Marie.
Well, that was terrific. I mean, a lot of, again, great ideas, a lot of the same questions that we've heard from the different cohorts on how to set ourselves apart, how to simplify an impactful message. And then also, as Gwen alluded to, how do you continue to pivot, but still set yourself apart from the pack? A lot of great questions that are coming up, and I'm seeing a ton of wonderful feedback. I want to thank all of our reporters who are all just wonderful and natural facilitators and teachers, and obviously leaders. You know, want to thank you for not only taking great notes, but also relaying these notes in the most vivid and practical examples. We have a little bit of time. So what I'd like to do is actually have folks ask any questions of the reporters. And while I realize that the reporters are not the, you know, all the experts on all of these different topics, I'm sure that they'd be happy to answer your questions based on the discussions they've had, and also some of the feedback that they've received from those groups. So let's go ahead and if you'd like to pop in a question in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question of the reporters, please do so. And while you're doing that, also feel free to share, again, your contact information in the chat box so you can continue to connect with each other. So any questions from the group? I know we have over 200 people in this room right now. Any questions for the reporters? Okay, then I will pick one from the chat box. There was one question there was a question about additional information on, I believe, payroll. And the question was, how do you determine which payroll service to use when you are growing and you're thinking about costs, as well as obviously the customer service? And I believe that was to our growth, let's see, maybe our cash flow management group. Any of our reporters want to?
Also hiring and retaining employees. I mean, figuring out how to pay them is a struggle. I have a bank person that I go to as a mentor, and they have a relationship with ADP. So that's why I mentioned them in my presentation. But that's a national resource. There are plenty of local folks. I mean, using a local bookkeeper, someone you can trust, who understands the regulations. That's probably most important. And that's what it caused me to do. Having that discussion with this mentor actually got me to go back to my accountant who handles my taxes every year. Turns out he has a payroll service, so he can offer me a good, fair price. And he's someone I've done business with for over a dozen years. So yeah, it worked out. But there are advantages as well. A national service can bring HSA, so health spending account plans, or flexible spending account plans, or other kinds of benefits that an accountant may not have access to. So they can offer maybe a suite of benefits to employees if that's the way you want to go. So it's like everything. It depends, right? You have to figure out what the balance is for your business, what strikes the right, what works best.
And actually, Mike, that was another question related to benefits and how to, I believe, sign up employees for insurance or health insurance benefits. So I think that's also along the same lines.
Anna
Um,
Marie?
yes.
I wish Obamacare addressed small business as well as individuals. I think it'd be a huge benefit if we could clear up the landscape for companies that have less than 50 employees. It's huge, huge change.
Yeah. Anna Marie, is it okay if I jump in? I actually have a background in HR and training.
Yes, please do.
So as far as payroll is concerned, there are lots of HRs. It also depends on whether or not you need human resources services. So for example, we have several agencies here in Hawaii who handle all of the human resources functions that are possibly that, they handle the employment law, they handle the employee handbook, they handle the payroll. They may have some, insight into actually putting up benefits. So for example, when you contract with one of these companies, they're the ones who actually give out the benefits to the employees. So all you have to do is pay a service to that company. So I'm not sure I'm sure there's more around the country. You just basically have to Google human resources providers in your area. You can also find human resources groups that can help you. The Society for Human Resources Managers is a really good resource. And then here in Hawaii, we have something called the Hawaii Employers Council. And I'm sure there's probably something like that in your area that you can choose to use, or to, it's an association that you belong to as a member, but they actually do have some resources there for you as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Gwen. Really great advice. So I know we have our next session coming right up. The one last request I have is to really think about these think tank sessions as examples of how you can leverage this community. What are the topics that you would like to explore with your colleagues, and how can you build your own think tank sessions? And you know that if you are in the ICCC program, we have those CEO working groups for you for exactly this purpose, to continue to connect with each other, build these communities, and explore the different topics that we are all challenged with at this time, but also think about solutions together, because we know that two brains work better than one, from what I hear. So with that, I want to thank our reporters once again. You all did such a wonderful job, and thank you for being brave presenters today. I'd like to now invite you to move into the next session, which is starting in about 2 minutes. And with that, have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for all your wonderful feedback, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.